Hi, Zinnia here. It's really hard to know what to say right now, because what do you say when this has happened? I am fucking petrified for our world. This should not be happening. Plain and simple. This is wrong and it should not have happened. The reason this feels unreal to anyone with a lick of sense is that it should not be real. We should never have had any reason to expect that this could become reality. And yet it is. And I'm nauseated every time I think of the simple fact that Donald Trump will be president. Again, I am terrified of what could happen to all of us now. This world is going to become an extraordinarily dangerous place under his administration. In just the first week following his election, he's already selected the openly white supremacist and anti-Semitic CEO of Breitbart as his chief strategist. His team is already considering the possibility of creating a registry for Muslims. I have seen so many warnings from survivors of genocide and scholars of dictatorships that this situation, right now in our country, can rapidly deteriorate into a historic tragedy. I am terrified for people of color, for Muslims and Jews, for all LGBT people, and particularly trans people, for women, for any minority. No matter who you are, if you have the means to leave the United States, I strongly recommend that you do so as soon as possible. This is not posturing. My family and I have an established and actionable exit plan to obtain permanent residency overseas. You need to remember this. Walls don't just keep people out, they keep people in. I cannot overemphasize the seriousness of this situation. This is a national and global emergency, and it demands the same immediate and thorough response as any emergency. The damage that this administration could do is unlimited. Not only is this man a racist, a misogynist, an alleged serial rapist, beyond inexperienced, and so ignorant that even the word itself fails to do justice to the depth of his failure as a human being. He has just been told by nearly half of the electorate that he can be all of these things, flagrantly and repeatedly and in full public view, and still be qualified to serve as President of the United States of America. Unfucking believable. I am angrier about this than I have ever been about anything in my life. I am angry that I spent so much time not taking this seriously until it was too late. I am angry that I did not work harder to stop this. But really, I'm not the problem here. I'm holding myself accountable for this, and I'm holding everyone accountable. Most of all, I'm angry at the 60,641,859 people in my country who chose to put him in office. Almost half of voters looked at this man, this fraud, this con artist, this self-proclaimed grabber of women by the pussy, and were willing to tell the rest of us, this nation and its people must try to survive under his leadership for 4 years. His candidacy was immoral. His very presumption that he, an evil and dull man who can barely navigate a sentence, could somehow be capable of carrying out the immense duties of the highest office of the land, was immoral. And make no mistake, your vote for him was immoral as hell. His election is America openly declaring its moral bankruptcy. There is no ambiguity here. Being okay with this racism, misogyny, xenophobia, homophobia, and sexual predation does make you a racist, a misogynist, a xenophobe, a homophobe, and an enabler of a sexual predator. You had every opportunity, months of daily opportunity, to see this man showcase the worst tendencies a human being can possess, and say that you would not accept him as the leader of our country. But you didn't. You witnessed all of this and decided that he is presidential. None of this stopped you from giving him your vote. You were derelict in your duty to your fellow citizens. You are responsible for this. I have never fucking hated white people quite as much as I do right now for their role in making this happen. Nearly 2 out of 3 white male voters chose Trump, and so did more than half of white women voters. There is no excuse for what you have done to us all. These people, these unbelievable fools, recklessly chose to endanger my family, my community, millions of American citizens, and quite possibly the entire world. This is not a situation in which there can be any expectation that we will take a conciliatory and measured tone and empathize with their supposed concerns. This is a declaration of war against us. That false ideal of a moderate approach in the face of his endless, poisonous trash, that needless and unjustifiable and indefensible empathy for the incitement of pure hatred, did nothing to prevent a Trump candidacy or a Trump nomination or a Trump victory. That's where moderation and empathy have gotten us as a nation. During the next 4 years, moderation and empathy will be absent from my life in this world, because my family and I will be too busy trying to survive what 60 million of you have just inflicted upon us. I will tell his supporters this: there is no forgiveness in my heart for you. Forgiveness would be an option if you were working as hard as I am to clean up the mess that you just made and fix what you just did to our country. Forgiveness would be possible if you were doing everything within your power to protect my family from the administration you just elected, which has placed Mike Pence, one of the most homophobic governors of modern times, one step away from the presidency. But if you cared about any of that, you wouldn't have voted for him in the first place. You put my loved ones in danger. I will never forgive you. For those of you out there who are struggling in the wake of this, I want you to know that it is okay for you to feel whatever you are feeling right now. I cannot fault any of you for needing to step away and care for yourself. This is a horrific situation, and you really are allowed to feel distressed, frightened, confused, helpless, despairing, angry as hell, or whatever else you need to feel. Give yourself that. Give yourself all the time you need to grieve for the world we thought we knew. I have no right to ask any of you to be strong right now, at this moment in history. But if you're ready to keep going, I want you to know that I do see a way forward through this, and I know what I want to do about it. We have spent this year living under the threat of a Trump victory, an uncertainty that saturated every day with anxiety and dread that never, ever left. That uncertainty is over, because the election is over. We don't have to worry about whether anything we do will make Hillary's numbers dip from 73.1% to 72.9%, which apparently meant nothing anyway. Donald Trump is someone whose behavior in this world consists of yelling, breaking things, hurting people, taking what isn't his, and making all of us miserable and frightened of the threat posed by his mere presence. I had to live with an ignorant, incompetent man like that for 10 years as a child, and I swore I would never let any person on this earth do that to me again. I want to be clear about something. I may be good, but I am not kind. And I want to break this man. I want him to be more miserable than he has ever made us. I do not want him to have a successful presidency. I want him to be thwarted at every turn, in everything he does. He deserves to wake up every day and know in his bones that we are still here and we are going to make his life a living hell. I want him to leave office a humiliated man with a broken spirit, living out the rest of his days haunted by his unforgivable mistakes. And I want his supporters to witness all of it. I want them to see what happens when you make a bad decision. I've spent the last week afraid of all the people I see in public who more than likely voted for him. I want them to be afraid now. I am determined to summon the microscopic seed of shame buried in their atrophied souls and make them hate themselves for what they've done. Is this possible? Yes. Donald Trump is not a smart man. He is a man with an attention span of no more than a minute or two, an inability to respect or even understand expertise, and no real grasp of what he's just gotten himself into. He is a petty and shallow man who holds insipid grudges and understands nothing but attention and fame. He thinks a presidential debate is the place to talk about your dick and revive a 10-year-old feud with a talk show host. He doesn't read books, or much of anything. He answers every question with circular, space-filling nonsense because he doesn't know how to think or talk like a normal person. He spends all day watching cable news just to see what they say about him. He has never learned from his mistakes. He is a rapist, with the philosophy of a rapist. He simply takes what he wants, by force, because he does not know any other way to get it. Whatever strengths you possess as a person, he almost certainly lacks. He is incapable. Full stop. And so are his staff. Someone who approaches a position of the utmost public service with nothing but treachery and selfishness in their heart will fail. His administration is of his kind, and they will fail too. Pure clashes of power do not engender cooperation or accomplishing much of anything. The executive branch is not a villain's volcano lair full of disposable minions. No amount of power afforded by his office will change the fact that Donald Trump is a weak man. The presidency doesn't only grant him great authority, it will also render him more weak and vulnerable than he has ever been. In this position, he is still a public servant. He will be more accountable, more closely scrutinized, and saddled with more real responsibilities than ever before in his life. Whatever scandals have been uncovered during the campaign will be a drop in the bucket compared to what will be discovered during his presidency. He is a man so packed with flaws and defects that he barely holds together as a recognizable human being, and under the weight of this awesome duty, he will crack. A pathetically low and ignorant person, ill-suited for any responsibility, let alone this one, is largely unprotected from the vast array of provocation and disruption that we can inflict upon him. His ascendance to the presidency is terrifying, and at the same time, it's also his disgusting movement finally blowing its load. The leader of the free world will be an elderly 4chan troll. Where do you go from there? Secretary General? The alternative right is in no sense an alternative anymore. They have no grounds to portray themselves as some marginalized insurgency fighting the overwhelmingly oppressive forces of political correctness. Opposing political correctness is apparently one of the highest priorities of the next president of the United States. The insurgency is now us. We are the opposition. It's easy to spew reams of incoherent criticism when someone else is at the wheel. They decided America would be better off being steered by them and their values. And they're about to find out everything that entails. How do they intend to address the many serious issues facing our world? By drawing swastikas on some poor guy's frog? Are you going to negotiate sanctions by having 100 egg accounts tweet slurs at Iran? Are you going to sign a climate accord with a meme? His rise has cultivated the awful creeping sense that anything is possible and anything can happen. Almost as if he's some unstoppable, otherworldly force. This is not the case at all. Yes, this bigotry is a massive force in American politics. We know this, and we see it growing more and more every day. Yes, the future is out there, and very bad things, horrific things, are going to happen. But since when did bigotry have a monopoly on making people feel marginalized and unsafe, on grinding their spirits into the dirt every day? Their movement is not possessed of some singular power or unique skill set which allows them and them alone to inflict this. Don't you believe that we can make them feel afraid and unwanted in our society? If anything can happen in this world right now, we can make anything happen too. I want us to remember our capabilities, our ingenuity, our creativity, and our spirit. The next 4 years will demand that we harness every skill and resource to fight this man and his agenda. I've personally helped thousands of people stop being homophobic, or stop being religious, or come out to themselves and start transitioning. I've gone on CNN to argue for basic human rights. And I am just one person in this world. We as a people have come together to accomplish incredible things before, and I have no doubt that we can do this again. Start thinking about the most unbelievable and atrocious things that would absolutely ruin Donald Trump's day and obstruct his attempted fascism at every step. If you have an idea, a ridiculous idea, even an impossible idea, tell someone, get people together and do it. Find what he values, find what he loves, and start chipping away at it every day. If he wants to bring chaos to our world, bring chaos to him. This, right here, right now, is the time to start making this happen. Do you believe in us? I do. Keep yourself safe, and keeping ourselves safe means tearing Trump down until he can't bear the thought of spending another day as president. Do not go easy on his administration, or his supporters. Do you think they would ever go easy on you? Have they extended a smidgen of empathy to you? They don't give a damn about us. Harness the derision and contempt that that you know these people deserve. They are beneath you. Prove it to them. This country asked for something loud, divisive, and vicious. I'm ready to trump that.